Good evening. I've always wanted to say that. Here's a story of what I call the Shadow Boss, Part 1. I moved into this apartment that I really wanted. It had huge 30-foot ceilings that were vaulted, 2 stories with an overlooking loft, a big patio, and 2 bedrooms for my daughter and I. It was a promise to her since I couldn't afford a house yet. I was making moves in the hospital and working my way up to afford this place, and things were looking good. I began diving deep in my studies on spiritualism and medieval grimoires again in any spare time that I had, and the place became very haunted very quickly. I'm talking about people walking out of walls, things moving, body hairs standing straight up, and fuzzy half-transparent figures that would appear at the stair top and chase my ex-wife if she came over. Thanks, by the way. This was intense, but not so much as when I first started back in El Paso. So imagine yourself hanging out at the bar or an underground gambling room ran by the mob. Sooner or later, trouble's gonna come around. It's just the way things go. So here comes the shadow people. And for my documenting, they tend to come around more negative emotions than positive. I think that's how they feed. At this time, I was pretty depressed about life. My marriage had failed, and I was raising a child of my own with a dysfunctional family, if that paints a picture. They would attack me at night, at first only 1 or 2, pulling, poking, and who knows what else in my sleep. I can tell you waking up gasping for air in a panic state is not something you want to do more than once. I believe they might have been trying to pull me out of my body, or maybe just feed off me, I'm not sure exactly. So time marches on with more attacks, and I start getting mad and swinging back with every black book that I get my hands on. Eventually I find some weapons that work, and I start dishing out some blows, making them retreat. Eventually they came back with friends, basically just more of them in numbers. My living room literally became a war zone of the living versus the dead, if you can call them that. Lights would go on and off, smoke detectors would beep in the middle of the night. It was nuts. But defeating them wasn't enough for what they did. I wanted to go to their house now, like John Wick looking for his dog. I was able to black out my vision, but didn't quite make it to their realm. I think this really got their attention because shortly after they sent the big man. It was on a calm night and they came with their numbers again, probably a dozen or so, lined up against the walls, with the blackest one standing in front of the patio doors, as if it were a showdown or something. As I set up for my sleeping spot, it started materializing, growing in size. The others started to flee as this went on. It grew to a good 12 feet or so, towering over the entire room, including me. I stood up and hurled an energy ball at it, like some Dragon Ball Z character. I kid you not. Psychically, an intense outburst of light filled the space, and it was punched back from which it came. From that day on, those particular entities stopped messing with me, but I knew we would meet again someday. See part 2 for that story. My life wasn't exactly better after that battle, but looking back 5 years later as I write this, I can say it was on its way to be. In the end, it wasn't the destructive energies of the black books that demolished those beings, but the light of an angelic presence. The desire of love emitted from my heart through my hand is what saved me. From that point on, I always kept 1 foot in hell and 1 in heaven. A phone line to the devil and a phone line to God. For when man knows thyself in his darkest places, should also know his most holy for his soul's completion. It makes you wonder how much trouble we cause ourselves and how easy it is to dig ourselves out with the right tools. This was a true story based on my life, one of the many. 30 plus years of stories like this, almost happening on a nightly or weekly basis. So if you like to hear this kind of stuff, subscribe, like, tune in, comment below. I know I sound like all the rest of them, but it helps. It lets me know what you like and what to make.